What's going on? Like the pinned comment says, we're trying like the mic that I use for video work, so it should sound a little bit better. I think both on the high end and the deep end. Ooh, maybe not though. Maybe not. You guys let me know, please. What's up, baby VT? How you doing? Also, please let me know if my mic is peaking, because I've not readjusted the sound like a real professional. But baby, let's have that sip together. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Yeah, I did like a very short sound test of like 6 seconds. I was like, this is gonna be good enough. I just think I can't get too loud. Or maybe like, I don't know if it sounds better if I'm further away from it like this. Or if it gets all the rumblies and stuff, or if it's too much. That's how it sounds through my headphones. And what you guys hear are a little bit different. We do have 3 stories here. I'm kind of looking for more. I know I missed yesterday, so I want to make sure that I do a really, really good job today. But we have some Halloween themed ones. Let me see which one's shorter. We'll start with that one. They all have titles that are like kind of interesting. The only one that's not, that's just like kind of silly, I feel it's gonna be like schlocky, is trick-or-treating comes with rules in our town. Because yeah, rule stories are the absolute worst. And yeah, but you know, also Halloween, so yeah, maybe we'll do that one next or for last, I don't know. The other ones we have is my husband brought a Ouija board home. It changed our lives forever. But what we're going to start with today, the first one will be the elevator in my building sometimes has an extra button. Let's get started. I know this sounds ridiculous, but the elevator in my building sometimes has an extra button. It's always the same one. B2. There isn't supposed to be a B2. The basement stops at B1. That's where the laundry room, boiler, and maintenance closets are. But sometimes, when I come home late, usually past midnight, there it is. A small, faintly lit B2 was tucked below the usual panel, almost as if someone had scratched into the metal and then backlit it from behind. It doesn't always show up. I've lived here for 3 years and seen it maybe 7 times. The first time, I just stared at it, trying to convince myself I was overtired. The light looked sickly, greenish yellow, like old teeth. I pressed every other button to see if it was a glitch, and they all worked fine. When I blinked, it was gone. The panel was back to normal. I told myself I imagined it, until the second time. It was raining, the kind of heavy, suffocating rain that drowns the sound of your own thoughts. I was soaked, my shoes squished as I got into the elevator. I had 4 for my floor, and then, I swear to God, it flickered. The B2 glowed faintly again, showing just below B1. I couldn't help it. I pressed it. The door slid shut without a sound. The elevator jerked downwards harder than usual. The light overhead dimmed, then flickered like a dying candle. The ride felt longer than it should have. There was a groaning sound, like cables were straining under too much weight. My ears popped, and I started to feel this deep, crawling unease, like the air was thicker down there, heavier. somehow. When the doors opened, the light from the elevator spilled into a concrete corridor. It wasn't finished like B1. It looked more like a construction site that had been abandoned halfway through. The walls were wet. The air smelled like rust and something sweet rotting. The corridor stretched out farther than the dimensions of the building should have allowed. Pipes were running along the ceiling, some dripping a dark, viscous liquid. I stepped out. Just once. My foot landed on something soft. I thought it was a piece of insulation or a cloth rag until it squelched. But when I looked down, I nearly vomited at what I saw. It was a hand not attached to anything. Just a pale, bloated hand lying palm up on the floor. I scrambled back into the elevator and slammed the closed door button until my thumb went numb. When the doors finally shut, I didn't breathe until I was back on the first floor. When I told the supervisor of the building the next day, he just looked at me too long and said, "That elevator's old. Sometimes it plays tricks." Then he smiled, like he had practiced it in a mirror. 2 weeks later, I found a note taped inside the elevator. Just a torn piece of lined paper with shaky handwriting. "Don't go below B1. She doesn't like visitors." No signature. I tore it down. I didn't want the supervisor thinking I was the one who wrote it, trying to scare other people living in the building. But later that night, when I got home from work, the button was there again. B2, glowing faintly in the dark. I didn't press it. I pressed 4. The elevator went down anyway. I hit every button, 1, 2, 3, 4, even the panic button, but none of them worked. The panel lights flickered like fireflies dying out. When the doors opened, I was staring into the same concrete corridor, only this time there was a soft sound. Wet breathing coming from somewhere deep in the dark. I heard her I heard something dragging itself across the floor. Slowly, deliberately. Something that didn't need to be rushed. The air smelled worse, like spoiled meat, mildew, and the underside of wet carpet. The elevator hummed faintly, a mechanical heartbeat that seemed to sync with the dragging around. I pressed myself into the corner of the elevator and just kept hitting door close. My hand was slick with sweat. The light flickered, and for half a second, I saw something just outside the door at the end of the corridor. It looked like a woman, but her arms were long and so skinny you could see the edges of her bones. Her fingers dragged behind her, bending backwards like broken branches. Her legs were bent in every direction. She doesn't use them. They just drag behind her and she uses the back of her wrist to drag herself around. She was smiling, but the skin around her mouth looked stretched with cracks around her lips that allowed blood to seep out. It was like the edges of the mouth were permanently stapled to make her smile, allowing her lips to dry out and crack. She didn't move for a bit, just stared at me in the elevator with those bloodshot eyes that were oozing black sludge from the corners. It wasn't until I blinked that she started to move towards me, but it wasn't slow. It was like she was sprinting down the corridor towards me. Every movement was followed with a loud cracking of bones that echoed through the corridor. She was using her long arms to pull herself towards me faster and faster. I have no clue how her wrists weren't snapping in half from all the weight. I started to press door close button faster, glancing out the door to see how close the abomination was getting. The doors finally closed just before she could reach them. When I got back to my floor, I threw up in the hallway. My neighbor heard and came out, but when I told him what had happened, he just stared at me, as if he wanted to believe but couldn't. That was 2 months ago. I have taken the stairs ever since. Until tonight. The stairwell was taped off for maintenance, so I had no choice but to use the elevator. I stood in front of it for a long time, watching my reflection in the dull metal doors. My face looked gray, tired, like it didn't quite belong to me anymore. I stepped in and hit 4. The elevator began to move, slowly and steadily. Then it stopped. The light flickered and the B2 button appeared again, brighter than ever, pulsing faintly like it was breathing. And this time, I didn't touch it. It pressed itself. The button clicked in on its own, and the elevator shuddered violently, dropping faster than it ever had before. My stomach lurched and I screamed, but the sound didn't seem to go anywhere. It just bounced back at me, hollow and thin. When the doors opened, there was no corridor this time, just a narrow hallway lined with mirrors, floor to ceiling, stretching into darkness. Every reflection was me, except one. The one at the end wasn't moving, it just stared at me with the same smile she had. The elevator began to fill with a fog from the air vents. The head began to heavy, my vision blurred, and I passed out. The last thing I remember hearing were the cracking bones or the high-pitched screech that shattered every mirror. After I came to, I found myself still in the elevator. Both ears and nose were bleeding, and when the door opened, it was my floor. I packed up everything I could and checked out, and left that city and building behind. It's been a year since that all happened. I'm currently writing this in a new city across the country in a brand new apartment. It was hard leaving everything behind, but life here has been good. Well, it was good until yesterday. I came back from my new job and entered the elevator to head up to my floor. When I pressed the button to head up, that's when I saw it. Tucked beneath B1 and B2, growing bright just like it did back then. I immediately jumped out of the elevator before the doors could close. I do not use the elevator anymore. I only take the stairs if they're blocked, or I only take the stairs. And if they're blocked, I just sleep in my car because I'm not going to risk my life with whatever is down there. So, I leave you with a warning. If you are ever in an elevator and a button appears that wasn't there before, don't press it. Don't give it the attention it wants, because if you do, it will follow you into every elevator you go into, waiting for you to press it and bring you down there to meet her on floor B2. That was a little silly. It wasn't bad, but still. Also, guys, how's the music compared to my voice? Do I need to turn it down at all? Or is everything able to be heard properly? The things I should have checked before starting. I was just excited to start, especially after yesterday. Let's see. This is a series one. I don't want a series necessarily. We'll do that one. How long is this? This one's fairly short. Yeah, it's really short. This one is titled, "My realtor asked me not to worry about the stains in the attic. I finally know why." I clean houses for a living. Well, not the nice kind. The places I get sent to are the ones that sit in real estate markets for years. Speak of hollowed homes, drug dens, and old estates nobody wants to touch. My boss likes to call them distressed properties. He always gives me the same routine when he hands over the keys. Don't overthink what you see, just clean enough to make the place presentable. This time it was slightly different. He added something new. And don't worry about any, well, funny markings in this one. That phrasing stuck in my head all morning. Funny markings. The house was way past the county line, a 3-story Victorian that was half swallowed by the trees along the side of the road. Every window had a shadow behind it. Inside, the air smelled like wet dust and mold. Why would anyone ever want to buy this place? Regardless, I worked my way up floor by floor, trying not to look too long at anything. Every surface felt sticky, like it remembered being touched. The wallpaper upstairs was spilling in spirals. There were these faint reddish smears underneath it. When I reached the attic, I finally understood what my boss meant. The room was large and empty, but just in the center of the spoiled wooden floorboards, there was a dark imprint, and not exactly a stain. It had edges like a silhouette. You could see the curve of a head, shoulders and knees forced straight. It was a person, or what was left of one, as if they had lain there for a very, very long time, and their skin had melted into the wood. I tried to ignore it at first, but the longer I stood there, the heavier the air got. There was no smell at first, just this metallic taste that coated my tongue. I set up my bucket, poured bleach, and started scrubbing hard, but with an essence of pervasive reluctance that couldn't leave me. The wood hissed. I thought maybe it was moisture reacting with the cleaner, but then the stain bubbled. Little white blisters had formed along the outline of the ribs, popping with a soft crackle. The smell wasn't bleach anymore, but something sour like when you open a drain trap that hasn't been touched in, like, years. I gagged. My eyes began to burn. I felt like the fumes were crawling under my skin. My arms went weak and a paralyzing pressure started building behind my jaw, like I was about to vomit, but nothing came up. The outline of the body didn't fade. And disgusted, I dropped the brush. I don't even remember climbing down the ladder. One second I was on my knees in the attic, and the next I was in the hallway shaking like a rabid dog. My heartbeat was so loud it felt like its pulse would fill the house. The bathroom was the only place with any running water, so I went there to wash the bleach off my arms. The sink was cracked, but functional. The water came out cloudy at first, but gradually cleared. When I looked in the mirror, my face was gray. My eyes had tiny red capillaries spidering from the corners. My skin began to itch. It broke into a reddish, painful blisters, and when I rubbed my forearm, it felt warmer than usual. I leaned over the sink to splash water on my face, and that's when the drain gurgled. It burped up a bubble the size of a golf ball. It popped, and the smell was... I don't even know how to describe it. Rotten flesh. Something black oozed up through the drain, slow, thick, clotted. It wasn't sewage. It was viscous like congealed blood. I backed up, and that's when I noticed the tub. The bottom was ringed and brown. There was some water, but it wasn't reflecting any of the ceiling. It looked deep, like it went somewhere. Floating in the center was a tangle of something stringy. Hair, maybe. But there were other bits caught in it, pale chunks with edges that glistened. Something bone-colored, something that had teeth. A skull flattened through its scalp. battered to the surface like ground meat. I didn't check twice. I was too shocked to scream. I couldn't help but instinctively run away. I was done with this place. I left everything, the supplies, the keys, the ladder, and drove straight home. I didn't even call my boss until the next morning. When I did, he picked up on the first ring. When I told him what I'd seen, he was quiet for a long time. Good God. You shouldn't have stayed that long. Save yourself. Before I could even respond, he hung up. I went to look up the address later that night. No listing, no record, nothing. Hours later, I worsened. I could smell bleach underneath my skin and something else, something sodden, acrid sweet, like fruit going bad in the walls. The blisters now began to forage my entire body, and a brown ooze leaks from my shaking fingertips. I don't know what this is, and I fear it has claimed me for good. My thoughts keep drifting back to that place, like something inside me has been tethered there. I don't feel like resting anymore. Maybe the only way to accept peace is to return, to let the attic have me. Let me take a moment to go refresh my coffee. I'll be right back. Thank you for being patient. We have some, it's not very warm, or it's not very hot, oddly enough. But, yeah, it still tastes good. Let's see. We can, do this one. It's titled, My Husband Brought a Ouija Board Home. It changed our lives forever. My husband Connor and I have always been huge horror aficionados. Ever since I was a child, I've been a fan of the gruesome and the macabre. Almost anything goes. Almost. Connor knows I only have one rule when it comes to Halloween. No clowns, and absolutely no Ouija boards. That sounds like 2 rules, though. Not in the house, not in the yard, and not in the forest behind our home. But Apparently, even though I've been drilling it into him since we started dating, that was too difficult for him to understand. "Hey babe, I'm home," Connor said, tossing his keys into the bowl by the door. "Welcome back," I replied from my place on the couch. "So, you'll never guess what I won as a prize from work today," he said as he rounded the corner. My heart dropped the second he came into view. "No. Get out of my house," I snapped, pointing to the door. Connor's expression dropped, the Ouija board falling to his side. "But I thought it'd be fun. Just this once?" I made direct eye contact with him, a raging fire in my eyes. "Connor, you know how I feel about Ouija boards. I had a traumatic experience when I was a kid. Now, please, do as I ask and get it out of the house. I don't want that thing anywhere near me." Connor sighed. "Fine, you win. It's going back in my truck," he said, disappearing from view. I picked up my wine glass and took a large swig. I love that man, but he really knows how to push my buttons. We both had off work the next day. We were hanging out with separate friend groups, so I didn't know what he was up to. I trusted him. Part of me wishes I hadn't. His poor decisions that night changed our lives forever. When Connor got home, it was nearly 3 in the morning. The kids had spent the night at the grandparents' house, so it was just the two of us. I thought that maybe after Connor tumbled into bed, we might have a little time to be intimate. Excuse me. I was dead wrong. I was already laying down by the time Connor walked through the door. I had been snuggled under the covers so the lights went off, doom scrolling on Instagram and waiting to make sure that he had made it home safely. I listened as the front door opened and shut. Then I heard the faint creak of the stairs. It sounded like he was trying to be quiet, which I appreciated. He was being considerate because I might be asleep. Now I know that wasn't the reason. Yahoy, welcome in. The footsteps stopped just outside the room. I heard shuffling as if someone was pacing back and forth. I kept expecting the door to open and for my husband to be standing there, a big, goofy grin plastered across his face. But that didn't happen. I wanted to yell out at him or turn on the bedside lamp, but it felt wrong. I couldn't shake the feeling that if I took my eyes off the door for even a second, something bad was going to happen. I don't know how long I sat there in the dark, illuminated by nothing but my phone screen. Then, just as I thought my heart might explode from anticipation, it happened. The doorknob started to turn. The door creaked open and I could make out the silhouette of my husband standing in the entryway. He didn't say a word to me. He bolted over to the bed, kicked off his shoes, and threw himself beneath the covers facing the wall. I was stunned. It had all happened so fast. "Honey, is everything okay?" He didn't answer, just nodded his head. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. His behavior wasn't like Connor, not the man that I knew. I stared at him, waiting for him to say something, to give me some sort of explanation. But he didn't move. He just stayed there, still as a statue. I didn't take my eyes off of him until I heard him start to snore. Eventually, I lulled myself into a false sense of security. I had to, in order to get to sleep. I told myself that Connor was just wasted. His friends did drink quite a bit whenever they hung out. That thought helped me put my mind at ease. Until the next morning. I awoke to find his side of the bed empty, The smell of baking wafting upstairs from the kitchen immediately caught my attention. My assumption about him must have been correct. Connor was hungover and needed some greasy food to get himself back to normal. Took my time getting ready before meeting him in the kitchen. He had his back to me when I took a seat at the table, a plate full of bacon sitting beside him on the counter. Sup, Suamacha? How you doing today, buddy? Let's have that coffee together. 1, 2, 3... Doing good? I can't complain. It's an okay day. Still a little weird, but nah, I'll be fine. All it takes is time. Did your friend get the stuff? Did they find like a model that they like, or well, which route did they end up taking? Sick track? Yeah. I need to like back off the reverb for the vocals and maybe mash them up a little bit closer together in the mix. I found something this morning because I know I need to like get a little bit better at production, and I have a list of things to try, and yeah, it seems pretty cool. I think we'll get a tighter sound, and also like how I've been doing things is like 2 rhythms. Or like 3 rhythms and 3 leads. But in this video I saw, there it was like 2 rhythms at 100%, and then 2 more rhythms at like 75, and like putting it all into one track or one bus or something like that. And then applying like certain EQs and effects to them to like really make the sound more punchy and tight. I'm gonna try it out. We're gonna see how it goes. Yeah, she found a model on a different site that's in her price range. Nice. Yeah, there's a lot of like this model, like I said, is from Etsy, so I'm happy she found a model and hope she enjoys getting into VTubing. One thing that I would highly recommend if she's not streamed before, and I don't know what sort of content she's gonna be producing, make sure even if she gets like some cool people in chat, if they start getting weird, it's much better to have like your boundaries respected and your peace of mind. Banning's always going to be the best option, or timing out if she really wants to keep them. That's probably the biggest piece of advice is like, make sure you stick to your boundaries. Don't let people push them. Things can get really weird really quick, even if you're trying to be helpful. It's best just to respect those boundaries you've set out. It can be hard to do, but enough of that. A little tiny Isla. Thank you for that, Pat. Chat rules and boundaries? Listen, no one reads chat rules. Go ahead and throw that out the window. You can set up all the rules you want. Most people aren't going to read them. Most people aren't going to look at your about me. And they'll just, if they want to chat, they're going to click past your rules and do what they want. But yeah, standing your ground, having good minds eventually. That's makes a world of difference. She's streaming already. She's doing pretty damn well. Nice. Thanks for the advice. If she already knows, she knows. But if you don't mind, just DM me like her channel if that's something that she's cool with. I'd like to check her out, see if it's like up my alley. It might not be. It might be. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to the story. Let's see, where are we at? Morning, he said, flipping a pancake. Morning, you wanna tell me what all that was about last night? I replied, eyeing him. He turned to face me, his brows furrowed. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do I mean? You came up into our room last night acting really weird. You didn't say a word to me. And when you went to sleep, you had your clothes on? I don't remember that. Must have been more drunk than I thought. There it was. I had no reason to worry. Thought so. How'd the boys' night go? I asked, starting to brew myself a cup of coffee. Decent. We got wasted and played with that Ouija board I won. Don't worry, I left it at Mike's house. My stomach dropped. Oh, really? And did you contact anything? I dreaded his answer. My throat had gone dry and I suddenly found myself clinging to every word. I thought we did at one point, but I'm pretty sure it was just Aaron moving the planchette. He tried to pretend like it was this entity called Mr. Pip. So stupid, right? Cold sweat enveloped my entire body at the mention of that name. I had to sit down to stop myself from passing out. No, I muttered, my head in my hands. This can't be happening. Not again. Connor seemed okay after that. For the next week, I searched for any indication that he wasn't right. Something to clue me in that this thing had returned. I watched him like a hawk. But the only thing out of the ordinary was that Connor stayed in the bathroom for a suspiciously long time one day after work. It turned out it was just constipation from the Taco Bell he'd eaten at lunch, nothing paranormal about that. After a whole week passed, I let myself believe that Friday night was just a fluke. I should have been more careful. I came home that Monday after a grueling shift, ready to turn on a rom-com and pour myself a glass of Cabernet. I'm home, I shouted, kicking off my shoes. I received no response. That was odd. The kid should have been there and Connor's car was in the driveway. I ran to the corner to the kitchen, brows knitted in confusion. My heart dropped when I found Alice and Tommy sitting at the table, their faces pale as sheets. Mom, Tommy whispered. His voice was too low, as if he was afraid to speak too loudly. What is it, sweetie? What's wrong? I said, rushing over to him. It's Daddy, Alice interjected. She was choking back tears. He's being really scary. He told us to stay down here and wait for him to get done. I was suddenly blanketed in a cold wave of dread. I didn't like where this was going. He didn't hurt you, did he? I asked, studying their expressions. They both shook their heads no. I breathed a sigh of relief. All right, I'll go see what's wrong. Don't worry, okay? I won't let anything happen to you. They shared a glance before giving me a grim nod. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as I proceeded toward my room. Just to be safe, I grabbed the baseball bat lying by the door that Tommy had forgotten to put away. My heart pounded in my chest with each step I climbed. I didn't know what I was going to find when I opened the door, but I certainly was not the scene that I walked into. I eventually reached the top landing and stood outside my bedroom. I pressed my ear to the door and listened, but I couldn't hear anything. Come on, Anna, just get it over with. It'll all be over soon. I mustered up every ounce of courage I had and burst into the room. I was shocked at what I saw. My husband stood in front of the vanity mirror. He was applying a fresh layer of makeup. Clown makeup. His face was stark white with black streaks running down from his eyes like he had been crying motor oil. He wore a polka-dotted jumpsuit with a red, scraggly wig and big floppy shoes. This couldn't be happening. It had to be some kind of nightmare. The second I entered, I froze, and he turned towards me. Connor, what is this? What are you doing? The clown began to giggle. It's been such a long time, Annie. It's good to see you again." He was using Connor's vocal cords, but that voice was not the one I knew. It was higher pitched yet soft, like an entertainer speaking to a child. All the color drained from my face. I raised the baseball bat, prepared to swing. "That's not my name. You give me my husband back, you sick freak." The thing wearing my Connor skin frowned, its big red lips drooping animatedly. "Annie, is that really the way to treat your long-lost pal? Mr. Pip missed you." I couldn't take it anymore. I swung as hard as I could, tears blurring my vision. I missed, lurching forward as the bat crashed into the bed frame. I instantly knew that I'd messed up because a second later, I felt the cool, sharp glint of a blade slice against my throat. "Listen here. You will do what Mr. Pip asks, or he will drive the tip of this knife into your skull while your children watch. Do you really want that, Annie?" My breath hitched to my throat. "No." "Good girl," he said, shoving me away. "Downstairs. Now." I immediately thought to call the cops, but he was right behind me. I couldn't get to my phone without him seeing. Instead, I was forced to march down the stairs over to the table where my children sat, petrified. The clown led me to a chair beside Tommy, while he claimed one beside Alice. My heart shattered for my baby girl. Can imagine how scared she must have been. "Hello again, kids. Mr. Pip is happy to see you." He didn't receive a response. "I said," he growled, pounding his fist onto the table, "Mr. Pip is happy to see you." He scowled at my children, who each wore a horrified expression. I'm happy to see you too, Mr. Pip," Tommy murmured, avoiding eye contact. "Good. Was that so hard?" His large, exaggerated smile returned as if it had never left. Tommy shook his head. "Now, Annie, if you would be so kind, will you get Mr. Pip a glass of water? He's parched." I nodded. Before I stood, I slipped Tommy my phone under the table, praying he'd know what to do. Tommy was a smart kid. He was our only shot. "Did you children know that your mommy and Mr. Pip were on a television show together? Annie was the star of the show." Though I wanted to scream with every fiber of my being, I didn't utter a peep. I simply poured a glass of water and walked back to the table. This thing, it was using my husband as a vessel to get to me. I just had to play its little game, and everything would turn out okay. Right? Mr. Pip, Tommy said, his voice shaky. "Yes, Tommy," he replied, turning his attention to my son. "Can I go to the bathroom?" Our captor thought it over, eyes traveling to the ceiling, knife tapping absentmindedly against his chin. "Mr. Pip supposes that would be all right, but hurry back, you wouldn't want to miss out on the fun." Tommy nodded, then trotted away, acting like he really had to be. I couldn't have been more proud in that moment, but then I was reminded of the task at hand. I returned to the table and handed the glass of water to the clown, who had my daughter at knife point. Watched as he took a sip, then my heart dropped. His face immediately twisted, a deep frown overtook his countenance. He shot up from his chair, locking eyes with me. "This is warm." Without breaking eye contact, he smashed the glass on the floor. "Try again." I trembled and did what he asked. I waited for the water to get cold, then I threw in a couple of ice cubes from the freezer for good measure. My hand shook as I handed over the new glass. The clown greedily snatched it up. He downed the entire thing, ice cubes and all, before looking me directly in the eyes. "Much better," he grinned. Something in that smile felt deeply sinister. It only grew wider as he smashed the second glass on the ground. "Take off your shoes." "What?" "Take off your shoes," he repeated in a sickly, sweet, sing-song voice. "But I did as asked. I don't." "Take them off. You're making Mr. Pip very angry, Annie. You wouldn't want that now, would you?" he asked, his eyes falling to Alice. I shook my head. "No." I stripped off my shoes and tossed them aside. Socks, too. I could feel the blood pounding my ears as I obeyed his commands. "Now, walk," he said, pointing to the room over, that twisted grin so wide that his face paint was cracking. "Please, don't make me do this," I said, tears welling in my eyes. "Don't make Mr. Pip repeat himself. Walk." I glanced at him through the tears blurring my vision. He was standing behind Alice's chair now, knife on full display. I had to do this. I couldn't let him hurt my daughter. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and plunged my bare foot forward into the hundreds of glass shards littering the floor. My eyes shot back open as pain seared through my foot like lightning. I yelped, instinctively pulling back. "Keep going," the clown demanded, and the eager glimmer in his eyes made me want to vomit. He was reveling in this. I gritted my teeth and leaned on the table for support. I motioned to place my hurt foot back down, but didn't get the chance. "Not that one. Now it's time to put your best foot forward," he cackled, his boisterous laughter reverberating off the walls. No one else so much as twitched. I turned back to find the knife pressed against Alice's throat. Her side. Her eyes were wide, and her bottom lip was trembling. I didn't have a choice. I applied pressure to my injured foot, a debilitating pain roaring through every synapse. I leaned even harder on the table, grateful at least for that tiny blessing. I hovered my right foot over the broken glass for a moment before I took the next step. I released an audible shriek as my right foot was sliced to ribbons. A pool of blood blossomed around me, mingling with the spilled water and glass fragments. Everything hurt. I nearly collapsed, but somehow I remained standing. I glared back at the sadistic clown holding a knife to my daughter's neck. "Very good, Annie." I hated that voice. I hated him. But that phrase, as much as I loathed it, it gave me a little sense of comfort. Maybe he was satisfied. Maybe that was it. Now, do it again. Cold dread swallowed me like a python. This couldn't be happening. What? You heard me. Mr. Pip said, do it again. Stars swam in my vision as I glanced back at the mess on the floor. I was losing a lot of blood. I didn't know how much more I could take. I I turned, wincing as the glass shards shifted beneath my flesh and prepared to follow his command. The pain was so immobilizing that I felt like I was going to pass out. I lifted my left foot, droplets of blood falling to the ground. I squeezed my eyes shut and... "Police, drop your weapons." That sound was music to my ears. I looked at the thing in my husband's body. His smile had melted into a deep frown. But we were having so much fun. Oh well, goodbye, Annie. For now. I watched as the menacing glint left his eyes. His demeanor changed in an instant. The clown blinked a couple of times, then his eyes fell to the knife. He seemed shocked to be holding it. He let it slip to the floor as the officers moved in. "Anna, what's going on? Why is there so much blood on the floor? Why am I wearing this?" A new kind of horror struck me in that moment. My Connor was back. The sweet, loving husband and father that I knew. And he was being led away in cuffs. It's been 2 months since Connor's arrest, and I'm still having trouble processing what happened. It took a long time for me to heal from my injuries. I needed stitches, and I had to stay off my feet for weeks. The kids haven't had any interest in visiting their father while he's been detained. I don't blame them either. His decision to use that Ouija board opened up a wound that we could never close. The trauma inflicted that day will last a lifetime. Even so, I know that my husband isn't the bad guy. He's a victim too. God, I wish I could just make all this go away. I want to go back to being a big, happy family again. But I know we can't do that. I have a feeling that as bad as things are now, they're just gonna get worse. Because I can't shake the last thing that clown told me from my head. Goodbye, Annie. For now. What's up, Fiber? How you doing, buddy? Let's have that sip together. 1, 2, 3. Perfect timing for it. The story was ending. And, the coffee's not too cold. Not yet. Not yet. Got the 8-piece. Always after a good stretch. Let's see how long this one is. Not that the other one was long, but I want something a little shorter. We'll leave this open for later. Pretty good. Just waking up and getting cozy. How are you? Sounds like a good morning. Sounds like a nice way to wake up. Not bad. Just kind of just hanging out, having coffee, reading. Got to watch a little bit of an Eastla stream this morning, which is always pretty great. I think this is an update on a story that we read on Wednesday. But yeah, I get to hang out with a Biani a little bit later on today. So we'll be making something hopefully pretty good for lunch, and yeah, doing something with her. I'm not sure. I think we decided on like just doing whatever I felt like in the moment. So I think it's probably gonna be like playing Monster Hunter, playing Final Fantasy 14, or potentially I got Code Vein yesterday. It was on a good sale, and it was one that I've been looking at for a while. So I'm interested in trying that game out. I might do that. I might do it on the gaming channel. I don't know. And then the other option is like I might make music. I'm unsure. I looked up some like new, what do you call it, like processing or producing techniques. So I'm interested in trying those out, but also like maybe that's something I should do by myself because it's gonna be like me being muted on Discord. You know what I mean? So that's not very fun. Played a little Code Vein. It was pretty good. What was it? Is it more like Monster Hunter or more like Dark Souls? Or like I imagine it's kind of a mix between the two of them. That seemed cool. I hope I can make my own character. I'm hoping like I think it would be nice if I wish there was like a 4-player co-op or like at least 3. It could be like me, Eggy, Teddy, and Kenna. I think that would be pretty fun. We've been playing well, we've been playing some Monster Hunter together. And I gotta get back to it. It did pretty good with the new update. I like it. Kind of a mix. Feels like it's his own game mostly. Okay. I heard it's like, or if I remember right, it's one of those that's kind of like Souls-like, or at least like hard like that, where it's just not just a mindless button masher. I saw there was a spear class that always speaks to me. Always love spears in games. I think maybe low-key that's why I've been sticking with Lance so much. I went back to Hammer. Me and Amy were fighting something, and I managed to get like 9 offsets with Hammer. It felt pretty good. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll play Monster Hunter because I want to get better at doing the offsets. I want to like see how many I can get. Also with Longsword, I kind of want to see like if I can like beat something just using the counter slash. That would be pretty fun. I would like to like get to that level where I can like consistently counter everything. I don't think I ever will, but it's a dream. Lean more into Souls, like the Monster Hunter or Button Masher. I feel like what's gonna make or break it for me is like if I think one of the reasons I can't really get too far in the Souls games is how I guess you're kind of just forced to use the dodge iframes for some attacks, which it doesn't click for me. Anyway, I think what we have here, how long is it? It's a little long. I think this is a continuation of a story that we were reading on Wednesday. Longsword is always great. Biggest tip I can give you is to learn the monster's moveset really well. Listen, it's so weird. I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter, but like learning movesets is not something I can do. My brain does not work like that. I like passively learn what monsters do. I guess just by fighting enough and failing enough. I can never tell you what the monster is about to do, except for like the Sergio's 3 kicks basically being the only thing. That one's really fun to fight with Longsword. Because like getting those like 3 to 5 counters in a row just feels great. It makes you feel like an anime pro tag. It's pretty sweet. I'm gonna turn down the sleep music a little bit. It's too efficient. Okay. We have, I think this is part 3 from the angel treatment that was supposed to cure evil. Nothing can escape now. If this is a story that you weren't here for, essentially what's happened, if I remember right, there's a new experimental drug that's meant to cure evil that they're testing on all prisoners. It seemed to work at first, but then one of the other guys, ended up vomiting on another prisoner, and, kind of had him as a follower, and seemed to infect him, and potentially one of the guards got infected as well. And, yeah, it's real spoopy. Don't worry, it just takes time and experience. You'll learn eventually. Especially since most monsters share some attacks, very few having differences in them. Fair. Yeah. I mean, I think I'll learn passively. It's like with Final Fantasy 14. I know, with a lot of dungeons, or more like trials and raids, boss fights, people will watch videos to learn the mechanics. But no matter how many times I do something, they don't stick. I think it's why I'm just perpetually gonna be not really beating savage stuff too much when I play. I suck at that kind of learning and memory stuff. I'm much more of a vibes player, which doesn't always work out. I feel like it works out with Monster Hunter, especially with Hammer and getting those directional heads. I don't know if it actually matters. I feel like it does though. Sometimes if the monster's swinging its head to the right, and you come in with the hammer and go left, and you clock them real good. Nice. It feels great. And sometimes it'll kind of stagger it, or I feel like it makes the stun meter go up, the invisible stun meter go up a lot more when you get those nice heads, or when you do the perfectly timed uppercut. That's how it feels, at least. All wyverns do the tailspin twice. I've not realized that. We'll start the story. Rule 2. When dealing with the angels, the cure can be spread through self-annihilation, the blast radius seemingly random. The administrator's office was flanked by 2 stoic stone busts. They were nearly identical, though the one on the left had slightly more defined features. Though entirely gray, their eyes seemed to follow you as you walked by. The whole aesthetic was completely out of place in the wide, sleek, modern hallway that led up to the administrator's automatic office door, but was just one of the many mysteries that surrounded the man. What's up, Lotsum? How you doing? During the first 4 months I worked here, I never saw the administrator arrive or leave. I never knew what car he drove, or if he had a family he went back to. When we met, he introduced himself as Alan, but even then, it didn't feel like an invitation to call him that. Sebastian, the longest tenured guard in the facility, just told me it was easier to call him the administrator. He would always take 2 days off, Wednesday and Thursday, every 6 months. The 4th month was one of these moments, and Jessica told me he was recuperating at some distant spa in the northernmost part of the state. At least that's what Jessica had convinced herself of after 5 years of speculation. Direction doesn't matter, it's all just a head and stun meter, but some attacks give more stun than others. And with skills, you can further your brain damage inflicting. I got all the skills, and I'm going to believe that direction matters. And to some extent, I feel like it does. I could be wrong, probably am wrong, but it's something I want to believe. Here to listen to your story reading again? Hey y'all, let's go. He was never at the office birthdays or in the lunchroom. We would honestly only see him once a day at 9:15 a.m. sharp to check our uniforms and confirm our assignments for the day. He was always dressed the same, a tailored suit that he would accent with a red lapel on the days the board visited. It was no different for Dr. Ricketts' visits, yet I hadn't seen him since. I caught my breath as I reached the door, holding my fingertip to the sensor and letting it scan. "Sir, there's been an N6P. Repeat, there's been a code N6P." And I shrieked into the speaker. I heard a low buzz. "A code N6P? Are you sure? What happened?" I hesitated. "O'Brien, he's vomiting black goo into the mouth of Jeremiah, his former roommate." I waited with bated breath for a response. The silence seemed intentional, so I continued. "Sebastian told me to inform you of the N6P." I heard two low beeps. The door slid to life. Even with everything that was happening, heart pounding, panic beginning to set in, I reflexively focused on the room being revealed to me for the first time. No one had ever seen inside the administrator's office. It was one of those subjects you would talk about to pass the time. Sebastian swore that some guy who worked with him, who had since retired, had been able to peek inside once, but didn't reveal anything really juicy about what he saw. The room was smaller than expected. It was dimly lit with 3 monitors and a keyboard on the back wall. A small tank of water left and a stack of filing cabinets set to the seated administrator's right, while a discreet wooden door stood but closed to his left. God, I can't read today. He stood up in a hurry, his towering frame unfolding like a mountain rising as he ducked out of the room. "We need to get back to the control room immediately," he replied frantically. He turned back towards the door and seemed to input some sort of code on a hidden keypad. The wall behind one of the stone statues slid open, revealing 2 guns whose make and model were unfamiliar to me, even after 6 years of service. He handed me one before grabbing the other. "Sir?" I questioned with shaking hands. He turned back to me, his face ghostly white. "Nothing can escape. Nothing." It took me half a second before I followed him. His enormous stride seemed to glide through the hallways. My largely non-combat role at the facility had just been thrown into the deep end, and I felt my grip slip around the unfamiliar barrel. My palms already slick with sweat. The hallways flooded red. Alarm shrieks tore through the air, each wail making my eardrums throb as we ran. "We're on lockdown," I yelled out between sprints. "Good," he called out behind. "Let's hope it's enough." He was the first one to the door, sliding open the heavy metallic door with ease. Sebastian and Aguero had their backs turned to us, facing the wall of the monitors. Sebastian turned anxiously toward us, his expression nothing like the cool, collected titan of competence we knew. He exploded. Aguero turned, rapidly shaking his head, breath rushing back and forth. "Oh my God," the administrator mumbled as he stared at the screen, the grass covered in bits of blood, guts, and plenty of black goo. "How many were affected?" "There were about 16 inmates surrounded the 2. Aguero's voice was shaky. "Jeremiah got up and grabbed one of the inmates in a hug. The inmate, I think it might have been Hank, the double murderer, pushed him back, seemed to threaten him, and then he paused, seemingly on the brink of a full meltdown. Brian just walked over, closed his eyes, and blew up." "Sebastian, what happened after that?" The administrator placed a sympathetic hand on Aguero's shoulder before turning to Sebastian. "Where are the other inmates?" Sebastian looked down at the ground. "Some of them, that black goo, it got into their mouth, and they just started convulsing right there. Maybe 5 or 6 fell to the floor, the others just stood in disbelief, covered in black goo. Then the ones on the floor got up, some humming cheerfully, others whistling like they were strolling through a park, all of them smiling these serene, empty smiles. And they grabbed the other prisoners and just puked that black stuff into their mouths. Sebastian's gaze met us. That's when I pulled the emergency lockdown. The administrator looked sporadically around the room. Where's your weapons cache? Jessica and Kelly are bringing it from the other room. Edgar pointed towards the door. Why is it not here? He asked, quickly looking back towards the door. I think Jessica moved it last night. Make room for all 5 of us in here. Agora responded, concern rising in his voice. Jesus Christ, I checked her myself. The administrator huffed under his breath. Barricade the door. We can't trust Jessica. Agora put his shoulder up against the door. The monitor showed a nightmare, dressed in serenity. In Yard C, a converted inmate. I recognized him as Jackson, a former gang enforcer, walked with purpose towards a cluster of prisoners huddled on the basketball court. His movements were fluid, almost graceful, as he yanked one back and pressed his mouth close to his victim. The black substance poured between them with a thick stream. The victim's legs kicked frantically, his fists beating against Jackson's chest, but Jackson just held him tighter. One hand cradling the back of his head like a lover, like a father comforting a child. The scream was brief. Then came the convulsions. Then the smile. On another screen, 3 converted inmates moved through the corridor in a formation that seemed almost choreographed. They weren't running. They were humming in harmony. I couldn't make out the tune, but it sounded like a hymn. When they found an unconverted prisoner trying to barricade himself in his cell, they couldn't break down the door. They simply waited, smiling, patient, even waving until he opened it himself. Maybe curiosity got the better of him. Maybe they thought he'd leave. They embraced him together, and black goo flowed from all 3 mouths at once. Another screen showed a guard raising his gun towards 2 converted inmates, inching closer. Stay back. I will end you, I swear to God. He fired the gun at one of the inmates, who fell to the ground. A fresh bullet wound in his head, sprouting black goo and blood. This seemed to call a frenzy. The guard was forced to unleash his entire clip on the sea of approaching inmates, but it wasn't enough. They took him anyway. They turned him anyway. I felt my breathing quicken as the screen after screen showed inmates and guards turned alike. Some seemed to only focus on certain guards, like they were being singled out. Those turned guards would turn others. I heard pounding at the door. We're just trying to help. We'll all be better off, you know. Jessica's tone was sing-song. Her face peeked into a small window on the door, her mouth covered in black goo. Kelly is happier now, you know? I saw Kelly wave behind her, his eyes bright and empty as black goo dripped from his chin. Give me the phone, the administrator yelled at us. Sebastian quickly grabbed it and placed it in his hand, his fingers danced across the keypad. Eagle, do you hear me? The nest has been compromised. Repeat. The nest has been compromised. You can't let out a single one, you hear me? You shoot, and you shoot to kill. The administrator ended the call before looking back down at the phone and jamming another combination into the keypad. Jacobs, we need backup. Backup immediately. The siren in the hall behind us was silent. The monitors went black. The lights flickered before switching to emergency mode. The administrator stared down at the phone. The signal's gone. They got to the main power converter. Jessica giggled behind the door, her smile growing wider by the minute. Kelly was gone. Maybe it had something to do with the power outage. The administrator seemed to be searching desperately for something. Sebastian, where's the backup generator override? Sebastian pointed a shivering finger towards the door that kept Jessica at bay. The administrator took a deep breath. We're running out of time. We have to go now, he muttered. But, sir, Aguero wondered aloud. This command room is impenetrable. The only ones with access are the 6 of us here. We can overpower Kelly and Jessica if needed. The administrator shook his head before looking back at us in defeat. It's too close quarters. We don't know what we're dealing with. If you said one of these things exploded, we don't know what other things they're capable of. Guerrero looked back at us with dismay as Jessica rattled on the glass a few times. Her smile now so wide it was causing little slits of blood to start forming in the corners of her grin. Guerrero, when I count to 3, you run towards us. Got it? Sebastian? Sophia? The administrator looked towards us. You start down the hallway. You make sure we're alone. You see anything move, you hear anything talking, you shoot. We can't take any chances. I nodded, gripping my gun tighter. Okay. Go. I was the first one out of the room. The hallway still navigable by the dim light of the emergency signal signs. Sebastian was close behind when we heard a couple of gunshots around us and the administrator yelling forward. Go! Go! We burst through the emergency exit into the garage bay. The administrator was already moving towards one of the facility jeeps, Aguero right behind him. I had to fire my weapon 3 times. I don't know if they were turned or about to be, but for my own conscience, I assumed they were already too far gone. What's up, Calypso? Indeed, me. And your local being one. Let's have that sip together. 1, 2, 3. Also, as you can see, I set up some Nightbot things. If you feel like they're annoying or they're too back to back, please let me know. I'll try to alternate the timings of them to make a little bit more sense. It made sense in theory, but yeah, that's a little much. Let's see, where are we at? I opened the garage. The outside was thick with smoke and the metallic scent of blood. We piled into the Jeep, Sebastian taking the driver's seat. That's when the gunshot started. Not at us, but from the guard tower, firing toward the thick brush surrounding the facility. I could hear them out there in the darkness, the converted, laughing, whistling, singing as they moved through the trees like it was a game. Sebastian accelerated the Jeep more as the administrator got to work on the central console in the Jeep, scanning his thumb and punching in a passcode. I was able to get Jessica, he said grimly, not looking up. But I didn't see Kelly. They're gonna have access to the mainframe, he paused. We need to get to Dr. Ricketts before they do. Do you think they're gonna try to find him? I blurted out as our Jeep raced towards the exit gate. He nodded, but his attention had shifted beyond my question. His gaze was fixed on one of the guard towers ahead. I followed his stare and felt my stomach drop. The bodies looked like a mangled mess, a grotesque pyramid of converted inmates crawling over one another, climbing ever higher toward the guard station. The guard was firing down indiscriminately, catching a few in the head, the chest, causing the tower of bodies to falter ever so slightly. But there were always more bodies to take their place, climbing with that same terrible purpose. The guard tower was open air, giving him full mobility to shoot, but it also left him exposed. They plucked him from his perch like a fruit from a tree, passing him down body to body in a horrifying crowd surf until he reached the ground. One of them forced his jaw open. Another vomited the black goo into his mouth in a thick, pulsing stream. The administrator's mouth hung open as we finally reached the exit. his trembling hand as he grabbed the radio. "I'm calling for an airstrike on facility number 50B1, he said, his voice hollow. "We're dealing with monsters we don't understand." There's a link here. Okay, that was the last one that we have. I've got many EPs. Maybe a little more space, yeah. In theory, that was gonna be cool, but think you owe me in Fiverr for that, Pats. What? What, mate? What, bruv? That's me. Just a super cute cat. Cat boy. Alright, I'm gonna stop that. Let's find something else to read. Also, yay, we had our goal for today. We are officially at 700. I think once we get to 750, we are going to do some sort of event. And I'm not sure what it'll be. If you have any suggestions for what you would like, let's go. Throw them out. Happy Halloween, Fox. Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. I'm sleepy and hungry. So, I was very sleepy yesterday. I bed rotted for a fair portion of the day. I woke up really early and went back to bed. Woke up and did stuff for like a few hours, then went back to bed. I woke up for a few hours, went back to bed. It was just constant up and down. I had weird dreams that just left me feeling drained and tired. I just felt tired when I woke up this morning too. I got good sleep, but I don't know. Ugh. I hope tomorrow that I wake up feeling like super positive and super well rested and extremely strong, because it's Maggie and mine's anniversary tomorrow, so we're gonna be trying rock climbing, which we haven't done since we were kids. So that'll be pretty fun. But I want to make sure that I'm actually able to do it. I'll let you guys know how it goes on. It might be Tuesday. We might not be streaming Monday. Eki took the day off, and we have like errands to run and stuff. And I think it's either tomorrow or Monday. We're gonna be seeing the new Chainsaw Man movie. We were gonna see it, I think it was this Monday, like last Monday. But we ended up just staying home. Got a refund. But they extended the showing of it, so we're definitely gonna check it out. Very true, cute out of 10. I'll take it. Thanks guys. Sleep is so nice. Yeah, I just wanted to be restful sleep. What's up, Nakian? You okay for hangies? Yeah, I was talking about it earlier. I said I don't know what we're gonna do, but we're gonna do something. I just might be low energy, which I don't imagine you're gonna mind. What's up, Sonoma? How you doing today? How you feeling? I think I'm gonna take a very short break just to get my coffee warmed up because it is very cold. And yeah, I think I need to crack my neck. Gross. I'll be right back. Okay. Alright. Finally woke up in time to catch a stream. And then I left to get coffee. But I came back. There was no milk involved. Not at all. I imagine I'm going to be EP2 when I get home. There. Well, we can be EP together. Working as usual. F, but Friday, assuming you have weekends off. I hope so, Sonoma. Hope so. I hope you have a good day at work, too. Take your time? I did. I did. I need to, think about what I want to have for lunch. I'm thinking, a big boy sandwich. I have, there's two ways I can do it. One's just slapping stuff together and really easy, which I like easy. But the other one's you have deli chicken, so it would be like a chicken sandwich pretty much. But I'm thinking it would be really cool to butter and toast some bread and then fry up the chicken and put if I have any hot sauce, fry it in hot sauce towards the end. Cook up some bacon, get some cheese, and that sounds really yummy. But also, I really need to eat better. It's not great. It always happens like this where I'll have a really good handle on my diet and be eating really healthy-ish compared, for me, really healthy. But then I'll just switch back to pizza and burritos and burgers. And then my stomach will be killing me. It'll be burning. And I'm oh God, this is horrible. I need to go back to eating better. And then we rinse and repeat. I mean, eat. Wait, what? What do you mean? Bacon is so good. Bacon is the best. Oh, I could bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich, too. Oh, I'm making myself hungry. I'm definitely eating before we hang out, Yummy. If Eggy is in the mood to have breakfast made, then I eat breakfast. If I'm already cooking for her, then I'll cook for myself. Honestly, those sound like peak food choices, but I'm also just hungry and fat because I love good food. Yeah, same. Like, I think last time that you and I hung out, I think it was with you, man. I was like, I need to go back on a diet. I need to start doing cardio. I'm starting to get overweight again. She's like, you're not that overweight. I'm like, I think technically from government guidelines. And we looked it up and yeah, just slightly. But there's also a little bit of muscle there. Dad bod's coming in nicely. Ayo. If I'm gonna be like a little choppy, I gotta go for that. Do you guys remember the artwork? I think it was on Twitter for a while, and Reddit too. But of Leos in the sauna. That's what I gotta aim for. If I'm gonna have dad bod, I gotta be Leos in the sauna. It's weird though. Always thin out in the winter, and then start just tanking, in quotes, or like ironically, I guess, during the summer. I've got the reverse thing going. I see nothing wrong with being overweight. It's nice because I get to grab my belly when I laugh a lot. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being overweight. I've definitely got a very specific body type that I've come to very much love. So I'm not gonna say there's anything wrong with that at all. It's just more like a me thing, you know? I prefer to like be and look somewhat fit. I feel better. That's why I've been keeping up with the exercise and stuff. But nothing's gone this time. So that's good. I'm also not doing it like obsessively, which is probably helpful. Because that's like, it's kind of my general experience with things is I'll like game, exercise, or make music obsessively for like 1 to 3 months and have genuine noticeable progress in whatever it is. And then I'm just like, okay, done. And I won't do it for a couple of months. I'm like, oh, I need to do this again. So I'm trying to find that nice balance of like, you know, doing the things that I like, but just trying not to like hyperfixate, I guess, which is hard. But hopefully, at least in the context of exercise, I could slowly get up to hyperfixation, where it's then just, you know, routine. We got some whiteboards. That's one of the things I asked for Christmas. And I think Ike was like, that's a really bad thing to ask for Christmas, so I'm just gonna get you a whiteboard. And yeah, so I have my little routine written out. Now I just need to put it on the wall, make a little box, little check boxes or something. Anyway, there's too much information about me and ramblies, so yeah, hope that was enjoyed. Let's find another story. This one sounds interesting, but we'll look for more. This one just sounds silly, but I'm not gonna read it. Beware the thing that doesn't make a sound. Bum bum. Okay, this is cheese. I like cheese. Let's see how long. God, it's too long. Blah. feel like it's essentially the ring, but in, the context of gaming. We'll read this one. It's a bit shorter. What's up, boy? This one's titled, I'm a geologist conducting a remote survey. I think I'm losing my mind. This kind of work isn't exactly glamorous, but it pays well. The company had flown me out to this remote stretch of forest to conduct a preliminary geological and topographic survey for a future radio tower installation. The job was scheduled for 4 days. Just 4 days of gathering soil samples, recording data, and creating an elevation map of the area. They dropped me off near a small cabin, originally built for logging crews decades ago. I was surrounded by trees, snow, and whatever wildlife that hadn't migrated south. The weather reports hinted at a snowstorm moving in by the end of the week, and the last thing I wanted was to get caught in the middle of it. The deep snow would make it impossible to do any work. The forest surrounding the cabin was dense, a towering wall of snow-covered pine trees, the kind of place where the quiet becomes deafening. At least, I used to think I liked that kind of quiet. Day 1. The snow crunched as I drilled into the frozen earth to collect core samples. I collected samples methodically from different sites that had been marked on a map ahead of time. I spent the few hours of daylight as efficiently as possible, but I couldn't help but notice the silence, a constant distraction tugging at the back of my mind. Night had fallen by the time I returned to the cabin. The trees loomed like dark, twisted creatures, their branches bowing under the weight of the snow. I pulled the door shut behind me and made sure it was locked. The air in the cabin felt thick, almost suffocating. The hum of the fridge, the ticking of the clock on the wall. At least the white noise provided some relief from the silence. I made myself a cup of tea and started sorting the notes and data I had written down throughout the day. Day 2. The headache started the next morning, a throbbing ache behind my eyes that wouldn't go away. Must be the years of still air in the cabin, I thought. I stumbled over to the window and opened it wide. The cold air hit me in the face, sharp and biting. The headache didn't seem to lessen, but at least the cabin felt less stifling. I left the window open as I made breakfast and got ready for today's work. It wasn't the first time I had felt this way. Jet lag, lack of sleep, stress. I assumed it was a combination of all that. By midday, I started feeling worse. I would look down at my map for a few seconds, and when I looked back up, the trees seemed different. I would open my notebook to write down new measurements, only to find multiple pages of notes I didn't remember writing. It felt like time was slipping. I sat down on a rock to gather my thoughts, and when I opened my eyes again, the sun had already set. The forest felt alien in the dark. I looked at my map and estimated that it was around 40 minutes away from the cabin. That's when I first saw it, a shadow in the corner of my vision. I froze and glanced up. Just beyond the tree line, something tall and thin shifted between the pines. I squinted, trying to focus, but it darted behind a narrow tree before I could make out. Something was following me, a shadow always in the periphery. Every time I turned my head, it would disappear behind a tree. It looked too tall and too thin to be human. I picked up my speed, but the shadow kept pace, flickering just out of reach all the way back to the cabin. I tried to make the hike back just 20 minutes. Day 3. The headaches had faded, but a constant dizziness took their place, making my head spin. I tried to push through it, focusing on my work. The first couple of hours went smoothly enough. I took it easy and drank plenty of water. I was writing notes down on some terrain features when I saw it again. The dark silhouette, quickly ducking behind a tree. I paused for a moment, my eyes focusing on the spot I had just seen it. In the daylight, I I felt a bit more confident. I slowly walked toward the tree. My breath came in shallow bursts, and my hands became clammy despite the cold. I reached the place where I thought I'd seen it, but there was nothing. I scanned the clearing. No movement, no shadow. The snow seemed undisturbed except for my own footprints. I circled the tree once, then again, searching for any sign that something or someone had been there. As I turned to leave, I caught sight of the entity about 50 meters away, peeking out from behind another tree. I took a step forward, expecting it to vanish like before, but this time it didn't move. I took another cautious step towards it, and in an instant it darted upward, climbing the trunk with a speed that could rival a squirrel. It disappeared into the snow-covered canopy above. I made it back to the cabin before dark this time. I lit a fire in the fireplace, gathered some snow to melt for my evening tea, and grabbed my notebook from my backpack. The firewood burned bright and immensely as it heated up my small sanctuary. I went back to the table. Suddenly, I was outside, and my socks standing in the snow. I could barely feel my arms and legs. The notebook was still clutched in my hand. The light from the cabin was visible in the distance, and the front door stood wide open. How? I muttered to myself. Had I blacked out, sleepwalked, or had the forced entity done this? I stumbled inside the cabin and sank into a chair in front of the fire. My clothes were soaked and I sat there, hoping for sleep that never seemed to come. The rest of the night passed in a blur. The shadows cast by the fire danced across the walls, and with every hour that passed, they seemed to grow more alive. As the fire died down to smoldering coals, the shadows still remained. Day 4. I felt like I was losing my mind. I saw more of them now, behind every tree and every window, in the corners of the cabin, and in the darkness beneath my bed. I couldn't concentrate on anything, not even the simplest tasks. I no longer cared about the survey. I no longer cared about the radio tower. I just needed to get out. I grabbed my coat and stumbled out of the cabin, too dizzy to think straight. The snow crunched beneath my boots as I trudged through the trees. It was following me, always a few footsteps behind. I could feel it breathing down my neck, a cold breeze. Then came a low hissing sound, quiet at first, but grew louder with every step. My headache was becoming unbearable. Just as I felt my legs begin to give out from exhaustion, I tripped over something. A metal pipe sticking out of the snow. The metal pipe, thick and rusted, protruded from the ground like a withered tree stump. Fate letters were stamped into the metal, neatly obscured by the snow and frost. Warning. Gas pipeline. A loud hissing sound clearly emanating from the pipe, an odorless and colorless gas poisoning the air. I staggered back, my body tingling with a mix of horror and nausea. The shadow was right there, no longer hiding. It didn't have to. It stood in front of me, still and silent. Was it really just a figment of my oxygen-starved brain's imagination? I used the last of my energy to get up on all fours and started crawling away. Then I blacked out. I woke up in the helicopter with an oxygen mask strapped to my face. "He's awake," someone said to the pilot. "How are you feeling?" What? What happened? Was all I managed to say. "Well, we were about to ask you the same," the pilot replied. "We found you lying face down in the snow. You're lucky we got to you when we did. You have mild hypothermia. We also recovered all your gear. Everything was stacked neatly at the rendezvous point." I'm writing this down. hoping that putting it on paper will help me make sense of what happened out there. Eh. Meh. It was alright. It was an alright story. This one seems cheesy. Feels like a Ring ripoff, but with games. What's up, Cheshire? How you doing today, buddy? Let's have this sip together. 1, 2, 3. More like a coffee chug on my end. What's up, Wave? I just woke up. Happy Halloween to you. It's going pretty good. It's going pretty good. The the stream has made me very eepy because of the rain sounds and the ambient sleep noise, and I can also hear my own voice, and I'm getting eepy and hungry as well. How's your morning starting? My neck and back feels tense. I don't want a massage. That too. EP, yeah, wife. Same. Morning's good. Gonna get the bean juice later. That took me a second. Brain wasn't on. Hope you enjoy your coffee. Hope you get something good. Are you making it or are you going out for it? The rain sounds and everything are super nice. Lo-fi girl. They're for anyone else that like does this sort of content, or I don't know, just wants background stuff. It used to be the case, and I think it still is. Any of the lo-fi girl channels are always going to be free to use. The only thing that'll happen is like if you upload your VODs to YouTube, it won't get copyright struck, but the sound will be like they won't put a claim on it, but you know what I mean. Like you won't be able to monetize it, or if you do, I think some of it goes to them for royalties or something like that, which isn't something I have to worry about, but just something to be aware of. You're legally allowed to use it, so that's always cool. It's nice that there's a channel out there like that that gives consent for it. Anyway, want some coffee? Yeah, coffee. There's the VTuber I did one of my first collabs with is Nova. Name spelled like that, I'm pretty sure. Coffee Curl. I don't know if they still stream, but we tried Stardew together, and that was me like finding out Stardew's not my thing at all. Might go out for the spooky themed coffee around me. What's it got? What's it got? Spooky themed coffee sounds delightful. Potentially, if it's done right. I feel like if it's gonna be like pumpkin spice and coffee, it might not be great. Or let me rephrase that. It might not be up my alley. Also, Sonoma, make you some coffee. Or grab coffee on lunch. I love Stardew, it's so much fun. Hard disagree. I know a lot of people love it. I know a lot of effort and love has gone into the game. I know Aggie absolutely loves the game. And I think most people I know tend to enjoy it. Farming sims and stuff like that, crafting stuff, never. I've tried multiple times. Even Rune Factory, which seemed to be more up my alley. But Neo. Also, what's up, Burgundy? How you doing? Let's have that sip together. 1, 2, 3. Yum. I like Stardew, but I have to clear out my schedule for the next 3 months. Anytime I get into it. Yeah. Aggie's like that as well. F. Got a bunch. We have horror-themed coffee shop. That's neat. Each coffee is themed after a movie. Then we have another one that is monster themed. It sounds like you have a lot of great options. I like it. And then we just have the fall flavors. Leaves and firewood. Okay. We will read the story that is titled, I Bought a Game That Doesn't Exist. It tells me I have 3 days to live. There was a garage sale in my area, which kind of blew my mind because I'm newly minted. Because in my newly minted life as an adult woman, fourth year of college and all, I couldn't remember the last time that I'd seen one in my waking life. It started as a bucket list filled with some rather plain activities as my newest attempt to fight the creeping depersonalization that had plagued me for the last year or so. Once I saw the sale, I immediately added it to my list, then went there and crossed it off. The sale itself was pretty pathetic. Nothing I would ever do a double take for in a store. Nevertheless, I spotted a single cartridge for a Nintendo 64 game. I hadn't seen it before, and wanting to come back with some sort of trophy, I snagged that. Fair. I remember Harvest Moon when I was a kid. I didn't like it then. It's for the PS1, right? The old lady running the show squinted with her glasses on when I held it out in front of her. Must be Marty's, she said, looking rather confused. $10? Cue that stock cha-ching sound, and off I went home to half my apartment I was sharing with Kelsey. Kelsey with the fantastic self-discipline, the great diet, the great job, my true foil and polar opposite. I entered. She was in the kitchen chopping vegetables and measuring her food because being high was its own full-time job, and I respected it. I lingered for 5 seconds so she knew to ask about my day. How was your day, Sadie? She eventually asked. I leaned over the dining table, or the dining table chair. I went to a garage sale. What are these? Why? It was on my bucket list. Why do you have a bucket list? You're like a baby. Because, like, life, it's fleeting. And, like, the human experience or whatever. She squinted. Is it an actual physical list? Word doc, mainly, I said back. And then some scribbles in my notebook. I couldn't tell if she was impressed or confused. Okay. I thought twice about whether I should flash her the cartridge as proof of purchase, but it didn't seem that she found the venture as impressive as I did, so I opted against it. Gonna go veg out in my room, I said, skirting off. Have fun in there, she said. Never liked her saying that all the time. It felt pervy. I closed the door to my bedroom. Sparkling lights hung across the wall to celebrate the arrival of winter. Amidst the cozy hideaway with too many throw pillows was the piece de resistance, the small wooden TV stand in the corner with a CRT TV on top, and a Nintendo 64 tucked in neatly below. Did I ever play it? No. Did it make me happy to look at? Yes. My usual special, dead-eyed scrolling between the apps while eating Takis and smoking a bowl lasted me about 30 minutes before a familiar dread kicked in. I know it's not intended for me. I have seen Isla play Oubliettes. It seemed pretty cool. It seemed interesting. Very unique. I went to the old TV, cleared off some dust, turned off most of the lights, leaving only the wall twinkling ones on, and checked to see if the old console, product of an era I missed, and yet still had some bizarre nostalgia for, was set up properly. When all seemed well, I grabbed the cartridge, Cartridge. There we go. Game titled Covington's Redemption. I blew into it once for good measure and stuck it into the console. Switched it on. After a few seconds of lag, static lines flickered across the screen indicating something was happening. Then, in big blue letters, the title screen appeared. Covington's Redemption. Press start. I pressed the button, and immediately I was met with a presence sitting across the table in a small kitchen. Wrinkled lines marked his face. He had a suit on, looked like he was a middle-aged man. "What's your name?" he asked. A dialogue box appeared for me to type my response. I used the joystick to painfully, slowly select the letters. LeBron. I inhaled, smoking with my free hand. "Thank you for visiting me, LeBron." "You're so welcome," I said out loud, taking another puff and then coughing. "Can't believe I'm not out shooting threes right now." "Yeah," I talked to myself. "Sue me." "It appears you are coming to me at a dire time in your life," he continued. "For sure." Smoke rings. "Perhaps you came here thinking I could send you on a grand quest." Word. "Truth is, I'm not who you think I am." He stood up from his table. "I'm not your quest giver. Rather, I'm a lawyer named Larry with psychic powers." I started laughing, here to battle cruelty in this twisted world. "Oh my god, this game is dog shit," I said, beaming. I heard Kelsey's bedroom door closed, whether in response to my noise or a random occurrence, I wasn't sure. "And I am grateful," his dialogue continued, "that you followed the spark of curiosity within you, the spark of instinct, for it was the right call." Dramatic pause. "For there is something coming after you." And if the fixed course of time isn't disrupted via psychic interference, your life will be taken in 3 days. And I had to be honest. No, the dramatic suit guy was fun enough, but my TikTok-trained attention span was starting to waver. "If you're ready," he went on, "I can take you to my vision room so that you can see the gravity of the situation for yourself." I pressed A to continue because I was high enough that cutting him off felt rude. The scene shifted to a dark back room, with not much else on it other than a bulletin board. Larry grabbed his head and focused, while a swirling sound effect played. He clenched his face, fingers pressed against his temples, until finally, an image manifested on the board. The photo of another character, a woman, trail of blood pooling from her mouth, eyes lifeless. "This is the condition you'll be found in 3 days," he said. I squinted, my reddened eyes in tandem with the slow brain processing power took a while to digest the image. The girl had a beige cable-knit sweater, not unlike the one I was wearing. Crescent moon tattoo on her inner wrist, just like mine. Blonde hair, loose, brushed out in waves. Outdated 3D model aside, she looked a lot like me. Like, a lot. His dialogue box stayed frozen, awaiting my button press to continue. Putting my pipe on the counter, I grabbed my phone, reread the cartridge's title, Covington's Redemption, and Googled it. No relevant results. I double-checked the spelling, added more words to the search like N64 or a video game. Still nothing. I put everything down, rushed to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, stared at myself in the mirror. "You're okay." Back to my room, I could feel my heart starting to bounce in my chest. I re-grabbed the controller and let his dialogue continue. "LeBron, if the site isn't making it clear, you're going to be murdered." I'm just tripping out. To stop the perilous train barreling towards you, I'm going to require a few key things, he said. He struck a pose, clenched in front of his face. You're going to need to be cunning. What the hell? I whispered, a wistful, pixelated look off to the side. You're going to need to be brave. I just need to breathe. Then finally, you're going to need to overcome your personal demons. Put them to bed once and for all. He steadied himself. What I suggest first and foremost is... I turned the N64 off. Just a bad trip. I needed to go to bed. So I did, rallying together as many excuses in my head as needed for why all this had a logical explanation and why I needed to call it a night early. Amidst bouts of tossing and turning and sobriety creeping back in, I snuck in what felt like the fever dream of a nap. What's up, Kiki? Thank you very much for the coffee. Let's have that sip together. 1, 2, 3. What's up, Sea Turtle? Happy Halloween to you. And Rennie. Welcome in. Hi. Yeah, oi. Stretch. Okay, let's continue. Eyes to the clock. 1 a.m. I rebooted the game. Take 2. Come on, normalcy. I was greeted with that same bulletin board, psychic lawyer man beside the image of a deceased girl. Except this time her clothes have changed. It still looked like me. Was now just dressed in the same jammies and Care Bear shirt that I slept in. Feeling all sorts of messed up, I finished reading Larry's note this time. What I'd suggest first and foremost is that you pay close attention to your surroundings over the next 24 hours. Then he rested his head in his hands. I've grown quite wary. Definitely a little nod to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, if anyone's a fan. I tried to get anything more out of him, but he just kept repeating, I grow wary. After that, struggling to place if there was anything else immediate I could do, and with exhaustion already swallowing me, I just turned the system off again and tried to dream away the cosmic dread. It was the next day, and after some truly terrible sleep, I was back at my university, forcing myself into the routine of classes. Clutched in my hand was a small pocketbook for jotting down any noticings as per the recommendations of one psychic Larry. My eyes shot from mark to mark in the hallway. People, students, with their micro-expressions, laughing at dumb stuff or stressed out. I wasn't actually going to die, right? This was all just like a joke or something, right? Sadie. I heard a familiar voice trail behind me, and then Connor fell into step beside me. Lifetime friend. Reliable friend. Looked way too much like the nice guy from 13 Reasons Why. Hey, I said. Whoa, he said, looking at my face. What? Nothing? No, what is it? It's just, you look tired. And I know you're not supposed to say that to a woman, so I stopped before I said it. Ah, yes, the hive mind that is all women. I smiled and shrugged it off. It's fine, just couldn't sleep. Shortly after, we were in our lecture hall for class. The professor rattled off about concentric zone theory, and I, well, paid attention to my surroundings. Across the room, I spotted Bryson, my ex, my big, dumb ex. We locked eyes. We'd ended on less than cordial terms. He wanted to open our relationship, and I granted him permission. He could sleep with anyone in the world but me. Notebook subtlety opened. I scribbled, Brian, spiteful polyamorous. Connor whispered, sneaking bites of his terrible-looking lunch. I know it's not my place to, give advice, but if you couldn't sleep because you were smoking a lot of pot, then you should monitor that. I know it can impact anxiety and motivation, and my eyes fixed on the boy's professor next, Professor Warden. A flicker of eye contact. Given my major, criminology, was his area of expertise. It wasn't a surprise that I'd had multiple classes with him already. My mind flashed to that choice encounter we once had, making out in the closet in the first year of my professor phase. The fun ended when he said, "Sorry, I can't. Not with students." Ironically delivered after sticking his tongue down my throat for 20 minutes. It was never brought up again. The memory faded, and I turned to Connor and nodded so he could feel heard while continuing his monologue. Pocket journal reopened. Professor Warden, scared I'd get him fired 4 years later. I just think, Connor added, that if you try to go cold turkey for even 2 weeks, it could really... The hours went by without much to show for them, and we were back in the hallway. And I was continuing, once again, to scan for any hints of the cause of my impending erasure. "So, what are you doing after this?" he asked. "Probably just hide away in my room. There's a new bar by Sundial. I was thinking we could check it out if you wanted." I'm really low energy today, Con. Maybe another time. "For sure," he said. "Another time, then." We split up. I gave him a wave, and he sheepishly scratched the back of his head and walked away. He was out of sight. I secured my little notebook again. "Connor, wee bit obsessive?" I scratched it out as soon as I finished writing it. Maybe just a bit too puppy dog for that, he was. I was about to close the notebook when I caught something in my peripheral. Someone peeking around the end of the hall, watching me, dressed in all black, hood pulled over their head. My walk quickened into a run. I rounded the corner and saw they were gone. I looked behind me, then all around, a little dazed. Then I wrote that down too. I arrived back at the apartment, marred with sleeplessness. Kelsey was in the kitchen, milk prep, always, slicing and dicing so elegantly. Too elegantly. "Hey," I said. "Hey, how are classes?" I stared. Swish, swish, swish of the cucumber on the cutting board. "You're really good at that." "Good at what?" "Cutting with a knife." Okay. Thanks." "Where did you get your training?" Subtlety left me. Knife training." "You mean my second grade level cutting skills?" "Yeah, I got them cooking for myself and not door dashing every second mill to my apartment door." Kelsey wasn't having it, so I went to my room and booted up my game. Covington's Redemption title screen. I pressed the start button on my controller, and we were back. Psychic Larry, was at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. He looked like he had been struggling. "Sustenance," he said, in the form of crunchy bread with peanut butter spread atop. I needed if I'm to continue with my visions. "What's this guy about to send me on a fetch quest?" "LeBron, please," he continued. exit my quarters. I believe there's a store on this street that sells what I need to keep going. I groaned. I was finally able to control my character. I went up to Larry to see if he had any more dialogue, and I received a paltry ... in response. I maneuvered out of Larry's place, down the steps and onto a city street. I shifted down the block, spotting four storefronts without clear entrances. Ding! On my phone IRL. I checked it. Connor again, text popping up on screen. Sorry if I came on too strong about the pot smoking thing. Back to the TV. Bizarre looking strangers walking by, the sounds of my shuffling over gravel, until finally, I spotted a store that I could actually enter. Carver's Diner. Before I made my way in, I spotted something interesting in the corner of my eye. Someone peeking out from behind an alleyway about a block down. The character dressed in dark layers held black ski mask on. I shifted focus, directing myself to the alley to find, just like in real life, there was no one around the corner. The music in the game kept skipping. The ambient outdoor sounds paired with something new, an off-key choral rise. Ghost-like voices coalescing in an uncomfortable hum. I stepped down the alley, the hum growing louder, my hair standing on end. I didn't like this game, and as I did step, I clocked a small square panel on the wall. I removed it, ducked down, and crawled inside. I inched through the passageway, small movements in the crawl space leading to an eventual resolve. A room, lanterns piercing the dark. I spotted a chessboard on the ground. All of the little pieces caught fire, all except for one. Ahead of that, there was a statue of a winged crown-bearing figure, hollow eyes with a serpent coiled around one arm, and a staff gripped in the other. I looked over to spot me. The same me I had seen on Larry's bulletin board as an image, but now fully formed. Strung up against the wall, bound, lifeless, with bloody tears shedding. As I tried to keep a grip on my own sanity, I spotted the words, "Not yet," appearing from a text box that I think came from the statued figure before the screen exploded into static, white noise, distortion, then cut to black altogether with a new single dialogue box appearing. Anniversary. And then I was right in front of the Carver's Diner again. This time, traumatized as hell, I simply went into the store while scribbling horrifying demonic stuff into my pocketbook. Still in the game, I watched Larry happily chomp down on his peanut butter and toast. It was the one item at Carver's I had enough in-game cash to purchase. Sighing, I sparked up IRL. Kelsey called me earlier to join her in watching The Girlfriend. I was now on my holding up in my space and ghosting my roommate era. I continued to press the A button as Psychic Lawyer kept biting, new dialogue boxes appearing that simply said, over and over again. Exceptional, he said, finally done, face flushing like an Animal Crossing character. Simply exceptional. He wiped his face with his suit sleeve and then seemingly locked in. 2 days. We have a little over 2 days now. I'm aware, I said aloud. You did what I told you, didn't you? He said. You've paid attention. Yeah. What I find very important, he continued, in pursuing justice is understanding motives, not getting thrown off by distractions or red herrings. Kelsey opened the door, completely ignoring our please knock policy. She flopped onto my bed. You're being pretty antisocial, she said. Larry's dialogue continued on, and I tried to pause, but none of the buttons worked. Privacy, please. I'm feeling a little low-key today, I said. You're squandering as your potential, Missy, she scrolled on her phone. I would do so much with my life if I had rich parents. Amidst the distraction, my eyes only briefly caught some of Larry's words. Re-examining, digging deeper. You're playing old video games, Kelsey asked, intrigued. Is this Mario Kart? Does it look like Mario Kart? Larry, meanwhile, energized, brought it back to his secret room with the bulletin board again. Let's start with another one of my visions. Face drawn tight, Larry pressed to his temples again. Having Kelsey there felt akin to when your parents walk in during a movie sex scene. An image appeared on the board, an animated close-up of a mouth opening, a fork full of lettuce being lifted to his teeth. The animation continued looping. I can now see the mouth of your killer, he said proudly. What am I supposed to do with this? Oh, a murder mystery game, said Kelsey, plopping onto the ground beside me. Yeah, it's super fun, I said, beyond depressed. So, obviously the killer likes salad, said Kelsey. Yeah, but I mean, so what? We call that a hint, Sadie. Write it down. I sighed, slowly grabbing my pocketbook, flipped to an empty page, and scribbled into it with a pen. She ruffled my hair annoyingly and bounded off. God, what the hell? I said. Go outside, she called back. Touch grass, use your trust fund baby privilege for good, and go easy on the ganja. I got up and shut the door. Back to Larry. So, he continued, tell me, LeBron, does this mouth ring a bell for you? No? Tell me more about today, he said. And then it just lingered on him. He stared at me, no input screen to painfully, slowly type an answer into. Realizing we were far beyond reason now, I decided to talk directly to the TV. I mean, nothing crazy at first. Earlier today, the weirdest thing was some dude, watching me from the hallway. That said, I mean, in the game, he squinted, never mind the insanity that the words I was speaking seemed to be translating. His expression at the game was worrisome. I rephrased. I mean, near your place, there was an alleyway and another creepy guy, but more. Anyways, and then I saw some satanic stuff. I don't know. The journey grows dangerous, he said. Yeah. He spent some time, fingers pressed to his lips, thinking, should I leave or he finally landed on something. Go somewhere and have a drink. Okay, I said. In near your place? I corrected again. Or in my area. In your area. Okay. I grabbed my phone, text from Mom. Come home for dinner this week. It was one of those string of messages from her I hadn't responded to yet. Needed to get to that too. I texted Connor, received a response back in 0.2 seconds. Then I headed out, striding past Kelsey, who was splayed out on the living room sofa watching TV. Where are you going? She asked. To touch grass. As I left, I felt the urge to scribble her name into my notebook. The salad is pretty universal, right? What do you think? Connor asked from across the booth at the bar. Yeah, I mean, it's a bar, so that's cool. It was the place he had pitched earlier today. He was the only person I knew who'd go out with me on a Wednesday night on short notice. They've got this, like, really cool cocktail. He flipped a page. I was thinking of trying it later. Server came by with our drinks. He smiled as she put them down. She left. I took a sip of the blue buck that he had ordered for me before I got there. He knew my favorite. I had to hand it to him. So, he continued as my eyes flitted from patrons to barkeeps, paying attention as always. You don't usually come out with me. I smiled. I just needed, like, air. Air and ambience. Didn't feel safe doing it alone, so... You felt safe with me, he said, almost lighting up. And yeah, I said, dodging. Just wanted to try a new place out. People watch, maybe, if that makes sense. More darting of my eyes. Tried to keep it subtle, while cursing my 64-bit lawyer for putting me into this awkward situation. Silence. I've been worried about you, Connor. I'm fine, just please stop. Not about weed smoking, I'll drop that. Thank you. But how you don't ever talk about, like... I swallowed. He continued. And I'm sorry for even bringing it up, but we're friends. And we never discuss it. But I can tell it's weighing on you. It's not weighing on me, I said. Your sister. Like, that's so, it's just the fact that you're like, trying to find yourself again, and I did say ambient, right? It's messed up what happened to her. And I just want you to know that I'm here for you as you try to move forward. Thanks, Connor. Truly. Then, I'm gonna go piss. I saw his expression shift as I got up and headed for the ladies' room. Inside, I felt my heart rate race a bit. I didn't need this right now. I studied my breathing in front of the mirror. A memory flashed across my eyes. Waking up late to miss calls from everyone in the family. I was supposed to be with her that night. I left the bathroom. I spotted Connor still goofily cycling through the cocktail menu. My attention shifted to the bar's back area, past the mostly empty kitchen, where I saw another person in a ski mask, dressed in all black, peering through the back door that led outside, eyes fixed on me. Beyond the stirring mix of sensations within me, fear, my heart sinking, anxiety pounding, came something a little different. Anger. I rushed towards the figure, blitzing past confused restaurant workers kicking the door to the back alley, only to see not one but two masked people sprinting away, far out of reach. I caught my breath, looked down and saw something that might have fallen from one of their pockets. A small totem, carved from dark stone no bigger than my thumb, wings folded tight around his body, a serpent coiled along one side, looking a bit like a strange statue I'd seen in the game. I pocketed it, still reeling. Connor showed up behind me. Sadie, what are you doing back here? Nothing, I just needed some air, not feeling that great. Sorry, he said, for mentioning it. It's fine. I'm guessing you want to go home? Yes. And that's where it ends, just abruptly, like that. Lame. Some of the writing choices were like a little weird with it. It's not bad. It's felt, I don't know. I know like the AI stuff, I think uses a lot of those breaks. You know what I mean? And there was a lot in that. Oh. I think this is where we're gonna end it for today. I'm very hungry, but I would ask that you please join me in rating my centipede, my senpai. This is a person who had, when I started the gaming channel, was my first viewer, and we actually started out doing this. This is what I started out streaming with, and yeah, they helped me, get into VTubing. Gave me a very high quality PNG model for free, simply because they supported me and was like, I don't know, they're a really kind and cool person. They're also a Seiso streamer. I believe that they're doing art right now. So please come with me over there, and let's show some support to Senpai. To Senpai. Acquired some coffee just in time for us to finish. Let's have that sip first, Sonoma, before we raid. 1, 2, 3. Thank you guys very much, and I'll see you Monday or Tuesday. Y'all take care.